We're going to do video number 2, which is homework part 1, which is found on page 13 in your note packet. Number 1, first we see iron, and the question is that a compound or is that a single element? That's a single element, so now is it a diatomic? It is not one of the diatomics, so you don't put a subscript. So this is just going to be Fe. Next is the word and, which means put a plus sign. Then we have sulfur. I'll put an S. Sulfur is a single element. It is not one of the diatomics, so you do not put a subscript. To produce is when we put an arrow. And then on the right side of that arrow, we have iron 2 sulfide, and that is a compound. Since it's a compound, the question is, are there any prefixes? There are no prefixes, so therefore we're going to get the charges and we're going to crisscross them. So, first of all, iron, Roman numeral 2, iron symbol is Fe, and the Roman numeral 2 tells me that this has a +2 charge. Sulfide, I want to go look on the periodic table in the "ide" section to find sulfide, which is here, and so it's going to be S with a -2 charge, and so here I'm going to put my S, and up here I'm going to put my -2. +2 and -2 are going to cancel with one another, which means that the subscripts are going to be 1 and 1, 1 and 1. But we don't actually write the ones for subscripts, so we're just going to leave it FES, and then we're finished translating number 1. Number 2, silver, which is going to be a single element, so I'm going to write Ag, and the question is it a diatomic? No, so it does not get a subscript. Reacts with means put a plus sign. Sulfur, which is a single element that is not a diatomic. To produce means draw your arrow. And now silver sulfide is a compound. It does not have any prefixes, so we're going to get the charges and we're going to crisscross. So I'm going to go find silver on the periodic table, and that is in this section here. It's Ag with a +1 charge, so we'll put Ag, and I'll put my little +1 up here. And then sulfide is in the ide section. There it is, S with a -2, so I'm going to put S here and -2 there. Now, these charges are different, so I'm going to crisscross them. They don't cancel, so I'm going to crisscross them. This 2 means that silver has a subscript of 2, and that 1 means sulfide has a subscript of 1. So I should have a 2 subscript next to silver and a 1 subscript next here, which we don't write subscripts of 1, so we'll just leave it as Ag2S. Number 3, phosphorus is a single element. And since phosphorus is not one of my 7 diatomics, I'm just going to write P. Reacts with means put a plus symbol. Oxygen is a single element. It is one of our diatomics, so it's going to get a subscript of 2. To produce means to draw your arrow. And now we're going to look at the product, diphosphorus pentoxide. And the question is, so that's a compound. The question is that compound, does it have prefixes? And you see the words di and pent, those are prefixes, so we're going to use the prefix to determine our subscripts. So if you recall, these are the prefixes, and in this case we have no prefix and we have penta. So because this, we have di here, which is going to be 2, and then we have pent, which is going to be 5. So this has a subscript of 2, and this has a subscript of 5. We don't switch, crisscross, move around, anything with prefixes. So it's just going to be phosphorus, subscript 2, oxide, subscript 5. Number 4, potassium is an element, so we're going to put K for potassium. It is not one of the diatomics, so we'll not get a subscript of 2. It reacts with, which means put a plus sign, liquid bromine. Bromine is a single element. It is one of our diatomics, so it's going to be Br with a subscript of 2. To produce means draw the arrow, and now we're at potassium bromide, which is a compound. This compound does not have any prefixes in the name, so since there are no prefixes, we need to get the charges and crisscross them. Potassium on the periodic table is K with a +1 charge, so I'm going to write the K here. I'm going to write the +1 above the name, and then we have bromide, which is one of our ides, and there's bromide. It's Br with a -1 charge. So the -1 goes there, and the Br goes here. Because +1 and -1 cancel with each other, the subscripts are 1 and 1. So you don't have to do anything when your charges cancel with each other. Number 5, bromine is an element, and it is one of the diatomics, so it's going to be Br subscript 2. Reacts with means put a plus symbol, and then sodium nitride is a compound. Because sodium and nitrogen combine together, it's 2 or more elements that make a compound. So, do they have any prefixes? There are no prefixes. So since there's no prefixes, go get the charges and crisscross those charges. So sodium on my periodic table is Na with a +1 charge. So I'm going to put Na here, and I'm going to put my +1 up here. Nitride is in the ide section of the periodic table, and here it is. Nitride is N with a -3, so I'm going to write N with a -3 up here. And now we're going to crisscross these charges. This 3 here tells me I need a subscript of 3 next to sodium, and this means I need a subscript of 1 next to nitride. So we're going to have a 3 next to the sodium, and we're going to put nothing next to the nitride. To produce means you're going to draw your arrow, and then sodium bromide is a compound, and it does not have any prefixes. So since there's no prefixes, we're going to get the charges and crisscross. If you recall over here, sodium had a +1 charge and is Na. Bromide, we'll go look in the ide section on the periodic table, and there's bromide Br with a -1 charge. So I'll write the Br, and up here I'll write the -1. +1, -1 cancel, so I don't need to do anything. The subscripts are done. The and means put a plus, and then nitrogen is an element, and it is one of the diatomics, so yes, it is, and it needs a subscript of 2. So we'll put a little 2 here. Aluminum, number 6, is an element, so I'll write Al for aluminum. And then is it a diatomic? No, so we don't need a subscript. Reacts with means put a plus. Chlorine is a single element, and then yes, it is one of our diatomics, so it needs a subscript of 2. And then to produce means draw an arrow. And then aluminum chloride is a compound. Does it have prefixes? No, it does not. So we're going to go get the charges and crisscross. So the charge for aluminum on the periodic table is here. It's Al with a +3 charge. So I'm going to write Al, and up here I'm going to write the +3. And then chloride, ide, it's in the ide section, so I'm going to come here and put Cl, and it has a -1 charge. So now I'm going to crisscross the charges. This means I need a subscript of 1 after aluminum, and this means I need a subscript of 3 after the chloride, so it's AlCl3.